The cafe owner locked the door after closing, then said, "Help me upstairs for a minute." Water dripped onto the polished cafe floor long after closing. I looked up from the espresso counter and saw the dark stain spreading across the ceiling below the upstairs prep kitchen. One drop fell, struck the hardwood, and broke into a thin brown ring. The cafe should have been quiet, in a good way. After the last customer left, the room usually settled into the soft hum of the espresso machine cooling down, the faint scent of citrus cleaner, and the deep comfort of dark roast in the walls. Tonight, the silence felt wrong. Elena Morgan stepped out of the back hallway. She still wore her gray cafe apron over a cream knit sweater, sleeves pushed to her elbows, a dusting of flour along one pocket. Her hair had slipped loose from its clip, and her face carried the blank focus of someone doing math that would not balance. She walked to the oak front door, turned the brass deadbolt, and left her hand there even after it clicked. Another drop hit the floor behind me. "Elena," I said, "how long has that been leaking?" She turned from the door. "Help me upstairs for a minute." No drama, no explanation, just 5 words that pulled the air tight between us. I set the cloth on the counter and untied my apron. "Show me." The second floor was closed to customers. It held Elena's office, dry storage, and the industrial prep kitchen she used for catering jobs too large for the cafe line downstairs. The stairs creaked as I followed her up. At the landing, the air changed before she opened the fire door. Warm, damp, dead. A working prep kitchen has a pulse, refrigeration motors, low fans, the clean breath of cold air moving through stainless steel. This room had lost that pulse. A puddle had crept from beneath the walk-in cooler, past the rubber threshold, and toward the central drain. Elena pulled the cooler door open. Lukewarm air rolled out. I took the calibrated probe thermometer from my sleeve pocket and checked the first container of marinated beef tenderloin. 46 degrees. The dairy rack read 47. A tray of cream filling sat above safe temperature. I closed the door. "How long has it been down?" Daniel texted at 4, saying the inventory was temped and secured before he left. Daniel Cooper was Elena's minority partner and logistics contractor. I had met him twice. Both times he wore a suit too clean for any man responsible for a kitchen, and smiled like food was just a number on a spreadsheet. "Where are the temp logs?" Elena handed me a clipboard. The last entry was from noon. No 4 o'clock signature, no corrective action note, no alarm record. "Before we touch anything else," I said, "we document the cooler, the food, and the missing log." Her fingers tightened around the clipboard. "You think he did this. I think the food is unsafe, the record is false, and Daniel lied. We preserve what proves that before anyone calls it an accident." She reached into her apron pocket and removed a folded document. "He left this on my desk." The paper was from Daniel's attorney. The language was careful, but the threat was simple. If Elena failed to perform the municipal gala on Friday, Daniel could trigger an operational default clause, seize temporary management control, and force a discounted buyout of her cafe shares and building interest to cover alleged damages. The gala was in 72 hours. The contract was worth $50,000, but the building was worth everything. Elena's grandmother had opened the cafe 41 years earlier, back when the street was mostly boarded windows and cheap rent. Elena had bought out cousins, paid old debt, and turned the place into a landmark, one espresso, one pastry case, one wedding order at a time. If she canceled the gala, Daniel could move before a court hearing stopped him. If she served compromised food, she would risk poisoning 500 people. That was the trap. "Have you called your attorney?" "She will answer if I call now." Elena's voice stayed steady, but one hand moved to the edge of the butcher block as if the floor had shifted under her. "Call her." Put it on speaker. Within 3 minutes, Elena's attorney, Mara Voss, was on the line. Mara told us exactly what to preserve: the failed temperature logs, Daniel's text, photographs of the cooler controls, video of the walk-in thermometer, and a full disposal record for every unsafe item. No retaliation, No argument with Daniel tonight, Mara said through the speaker. Do not erase anything. Do not let him back into the prep room without a witness. And Elena, do not cancel the gala until we know whether replacement inventory is possible. Elena looked at me. Is it possible? I thought of my old corporate restaurant group, the vendors who still answered when I called, the refrigerated van parked behind my own kitchen, and Miles Carter, my sous chef, who would complain for exactly 90 seconds before showing up with knives. It is possible, I said, but not as a favor and not as a handshake. Elena blinked. I can source replacement inventory through my restaurant group tonight. It has to be a written emergency supply agreement, every crate documented, payable from the gala proceeds, with Mara copied and Miles witnessing the delivery. No personal debt, no hidden conditions. If you choose to proceed, the food is clean, the paper trail is clean, and Daniel cannot frame it as unauthorized spending from the joint account. The rigid line of her shoulders eased by a fraction. You would do that? I know food safety, vendors, and gala service. You know this business and this building. Daniel knows paperwork. We beat paperwork with better paperwork. A breath escaped her that was almost a laugh. Mara cleared her throat on the phone. I can draft a one-page emergency supply agreement in 10 minutes. Elena signs for the cafe. Nathan's group invoices after performance. Payment comes directly from the gala balance. No equity, no partnership, no personal obligation. Elena looked at the cooler door, then at the default notice, then at me. Make the calls. Chef. The next hour was all evidence. We photographed the bypass defrost panel, the silent compressor, the puddle under the cooler, the missing log entry, and the unsafe food temperatures. Elena read every label aloud while I recorded. Nothing went into the disposal bins until Mara approved the documentation sequence. Then we moved fast. Miles answered my call on the third ring. Someone better be bleeding, he muttered. No blood. Dead walk-in. 500 cover municipal gala Friday. Daniel sabotaged the inventory. There was silence. I hate him, and I've never met him. You will. Bring your kit. 2 trusted temp cooks from our approved list, and the refrigerated van. Do I get coffee? You get survival. I'm adding that to my contract. By midnight, Miles and 2 line cooks from my old restaurant group were on their way. My vendor in Fulton Market confirmed emergency replacement beef, dairy, herbs, and produce. A refrigerated truck would reach the cafe by 3:30. Elena unlocked her office and pulled 3 binders from a shelf, the gala menu, staffing plan, and service contract. She laid them across the desk like battle maps. This is the confirmed menu, she said. Tenderloin, fingerlings, asparagus, winter salad, pastry trio. Audrey Foster coordinates the event for the city board. She needs confirmation by noon tomorrow that we can still execute. Call her after we have the replacement inventory in the building. Elena nodded. She trusts results, not panic. That makes 2 of us. For the first time that night, Elena looked at me without the legal notice between us. The room smelled like warm water, citrus cleaner, and ruined cream. It still felt like a kitchen worth saving. At 3:45 in the morning, the replacement truck backed into the alley. Rain ran down the loading door as Miles jumped from the passenger seat, wearing a black beanie and the expression of a man offended by dawn before it arrived. He pointed at me. You owe me breakfast for the rest of the year. You can invoice me. I am emotionally invoicing you. Elena stood beside the loading dock with the emergency agreement in a folder. Mara had emailed signatures to everyone. Miles signed as witness before a single crate crossed the threshold. The new inventory arrived in sealed containers with cold chain records. We temped every box, logged every reading, and moved everything into borrowed refrigerated cabinets from my restaurant group until a repair company could stabilize the walk-in. At 5:15, the room no longer smelled of spoiled dairy. It smelled of fresh rosemary, dry ice, citrus, and work. I drew a schedule on a yellow legal pad and taped it to the butcher block. No speeches, no chaos, just stations, times, Responsibilities and decision points. Miles, vegetables and temp cooks. Priya, pastry support and sanitation logs. Andre, butcher assist and loading records. Elena, stock reductions, client communications, and service staff confirmations. I will break down the tenderloins, manage hot prep, and build the HACCP book for Friday. Elena studied the schedule. It looks less impossible on paper. That is why paper exists. Miles snorted. That is the most chef thing you have ever said. At 7:30, Daniel arrived. He pushed through the fire door in a navy suit and polished shoes, stopping when he saw fresh inventory stacked in temperature-controlled bins. His gaze moved from Miles to the temp cooks to the legal folder on the butcher block. What is this? Elena wiped her hands on a towel and faced him. Replacement inventory. You can't authorize new vendors without my signature. I didn't use the joint account. His smile returned. No, you can't use the joint account. I filed a dispute this morning. The bank froze access pending review. Elena's face lost color, but she did not step back. Daniel slid a bank notice onto the butcher block. Payroll, vendor payments, operating cash, all frozen. You can play chef for a day, Nathan, but she can't pay anyone by Friday. Miles set down his knife. I raised one hand without looking away from Daniel. The inventory is not purchased through Elena's joint account. I said, it is supplied under a written emergency agreement, witnessed, documented, and payable from the gala proceeds. Your dispute does not stop it. Daniel glanced at the folder. You think that saves her? It saves the food. Elena picked up the bank notice and read it once. Payroll? Frozen. Daniel said, your staff can work for free or walk. Elena folded the notice. My personal reserve covers the service staff advance. The gala balance covers the rest on completion. You do not have enough reserve for the full staff. No, she said, but I have enough to prove I am not asking anyone to trust air. She turned to me. Nathan, keep prep moving. Then she turned to Miles and the temp cooks. I will meet every staff member downstairs at 9 with written payment terms. Anyone who wants to step away may do so without penalty. Anyone who stays receives a partial advance today and the balance by certified check after the gala. I will put it in writing. Daniel's jaw tightened. You're still short. We are still cooking. His smile thinned. This ends Friday. Elena looked directly at him. Yes, it does. Daniel took one step toward the prep table. I pointed to the yellow line taped near the door. You are not in kitchen attire, and you are not on the active staff list. Behind the line, he stared at me. I am an owner. Then act like one and respect the food safety boundary. Miles coughed into his fist. Daniel stepped back, straightened his cuffs, and left. When the door closed, Elena's hands began to shake. She held them against the counter until the tremor passed. No one pretended not to see. No one crowded her either. I turned to the schedule. Vegetables at 8, stocks at 8:15, staff meeting at 9. We keep moving. She nodded once. We keep moving. At 9, the service staff gathered downstairs in the cafe. Elena stood behind the counter with a stack of printed agreements. Her voice did not waver as she explained the account freeze, the partial advance, the certified check plan, and the right to refuse the gala shift. 3 servers stepped away. Elena thanked them and wrote their names on a later call list. The rest stayed. One older server named Beatrice took the paper, signed it, and said, Your grandmother paid me in quarters once during the winter flood. She made good by Friday, so will you? Elena looked down for half a second. Then she signed the witness line. That was the first relief of the day. The second came at noon, when Audrey Foster called. Elena took the call in the office, and I stood outside the open door with the schedule in one hand. We had a refrigeration failure. Elena said, the compromised food was discarded with documentation. Replacement inventory is logged, and Chef Nathan Reed is directing the kitchen. I can send the updated HACCP plan within the hour. Audrey was quiet long enough for the espresso machine downstairs to hiss. I need assurance the city board will not be embarrassed. You will have it. Elena said, you may inspect the prep kitchen at 4. Audrey arrived at 4 in a camel coat, carrying a leather portfolio and the tired authority of a woman who had survived too many public events. She checked the kitchen, reviewed the logs, confirmed the replacement suppliers, and watched Miles label hotel pans for service. At the end, she turned to Elena. You could have hidden this and risked the guests? I needed to hear you say that. Audrey closed her portfolio. The gala proceeds can be issued by certified check to Morgan Café Events LLC immediately after service, provided the board signs completion. I will note that in writing. Elena's fingers tightened once around her blue ceramic mug. Thank you. Audrey looked at me. Chef Reed, can you execute? Yes. Elena? Elena lifted her chin. We will. After Audrey left, Elena set the mug down and returned to the pastry station. The blue mug became my landmark for the next 30 hours. Whenever it emptied, I refilled it and placed it where she could reach without looking. I never announced it. The first time, she nodded without stopping her rolling pin. The third time, she whispered, thank you, while crimping tart shells with steady hands. At midnight, I noticed her shifting weight off her left knee. She stood at the stainless table, peeling pearl onions. Each one perfect, each one unnecessary to do by hand, except that Elena refused to serve food that looked rushed. I rolled the thick anti-fatigue mat from my station and slid it under her boots. She looked down. Your station. I have younger knees. You are 34. Exactly. Youth. She laughed quietly, and for 3 seconds the kitchen felt less like a war room. By Thursday evening, the prep kitchen moved on breath and instinct. Andre sealed sauces. Priya packed pastry components. Miles sharpened knives with the expression of a man ready to fight vegetables in court. Elena moved between pastry, staff calls, and payment records, refusing to let fear steal her precision. At 1 in the morning, I found her in the dry pantry. Not collapsed, not broken, sitting on a flour sack with the bank notice in one hand and the default letter in the other. The room smelled of cinnamon, paper, and yeast. I promised myself I would never let a partner control my money again, she said. I stayed in the doorway. Mara told me about your ex-partner. Elena nodded. He forged my signature 5 years ago, took loans against inventory, left me with debt and a reputation for bad judgment. She looked at the bank notice. Daniel found the old scar and pressed on it. What is the next practical step? She looked up, not signing his buyout. After that, gala service, certified check, payroll, attorney notice. Good. Her mouth trembled once, then steadied. I need 1 minute where I am not the owner. I sat on an overturned flour bucket opposite her. Take it. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. I offered my hand palm up between us. She looked at it, then placed her fingers in mine. Nothing more? Her grip was cold at first. Then the tremor faded. After a minute, she released my hand and stood. Back to work. That was 68 seconds. I took interest. We returned to the kitchen. Friday arrived under a gray sky. By noon, the refrigerated van was packed with labeled crates, temperature monitors, backup thermometers, sanitation kits, service diagrams, and more gaffer tape than anyone should need for a dinner. Elena stood at the front counter with Daniel's buyout offer in front of her. A pen lay beside the signature line. I stopped on the customer side of the counter. If you sign, I said, your immediate fear ends. Daniel gets the leverage he wanted. And if I don't? Then we execute the service, get the completion certificate, pay everyone, and let Mara deal with him in writing. You sound certain. I am certain about the kitchen. The rest belongs to your lawyer and your decision. She picked up the pen. For 1 long second, the cafe seemed to hold still around us. Then she drew a line through the signature box, wrote declined across the offer, and slid it into a folder marked Daniel, legal. Load the trucks. Chef. Yes, owner. The municipal gala took place in a vaulted ballroom downtown. All marble columns, gold uplighting, and donors who expected the food to appear without knowing what it had survived. The staging kitchen behind the ballroom was narrow, hot, and loud. Portable ovens lined one wall. Steel tables ran down the middle. Servers moved in and out like the tide. We had 6 cooks, 12 servers, and 1 chance. At 6:45, I stood at Expo with the ticket board in front of me. Table 1 through 5, salads away. Hotline, hold tenderloin until I call. Pastry, confirm final count. Heard, Miles called. Elena moved between the kitchen and dining captain, translating chaos into clean timing. She wore a black service apron and carried the clipboard like a shield that had learned to become a sword. At 7:30, Audrey entered the staging kitchen. First course is landing beautifully. Elena nodded. Main at 7:50. Board chair is happy. Tell him dessert depends on his continued good behavior. Audrey's smile flashed. I will edit that. The rhythm held through salad, bread service, and the first wave of tenderloin plates. Then, at 8:15, the side door opened. Daniel stepped in with a municipal health inspector. The inspector wore a green jacket and carried a temperature kit. His eyes went directly to the holding cabinets. I received a complaint regarding unsafe replacement inventory, he said. The room tightened. Daniel stood behind him, hands clasped, almost smiling. I kept my voice even. Good evening, Inspector. I am Nathan Reed, Executive Chef for this service. We are in active service, but you are welcome to review the HACCP logs and test any holding unit without interrupting plate flow. The inspector looked at the servers. Service may continue if I can access records and food safely. You can. I pulled the black compliance binder from beneath the expo station and placed it on the stainless table. Every receiving temperature, cooler reading, probe calibration, discard record, and transport log was inside. Mara had copies. Audrey had copies. Elena had signed each critical control page. The inspector opened the first holding cabinet. Steam rolled into the fluorescent light. He inserted a clean probe into the center of a tenderloin. The numbers climbed. 134. 135.2. He checked sanitizer buckets, hand-washing logs, floor drains, and cold desserts. Nothing failed. Daniel's smile vanished, one reading at a time. Audrey stepped into the doorway. Inspector, do you have any finding requiring service interruption? No, he said. The operation is compliant. He signed his worksheet. Carry on. Daniel turned toward Elena. You still owe vendors. You still owe staff. You still owe him. Mara Voss entered from the hall before Elena answered. Audrey had called her when Daniel appeared. Mara handed Daniel a sealed envelope. Notice of partner misconduct and temporary suspension of operational authority pending arbitration, she said. The complaint you filed tonight, combined with the cooler evidence, the bank freeze, and your 4 o'clock text, is now part of the record. Daniel's face tightened. You can't remove me. No, Mara said. The arbitrator can, but the agreement allows Elena to suspend your logistics authority after documented interference with the municipal contract. You signed that clause. Elena stepped beside Mara. She held the buyout offer Daniel had tried to force on her. I declined this earlier, she said. I am declining it again in front of witnesses. She tore the offer in half and dropped the pieces into the trash beside the sanitation station. Not on the floor. Not at his feet. Into the trash, where it belonged. Leave my kitchen. Daniel. For once, he had no clean reply. Audrey signaled security. Daniel left between 2 staff members in black suits, his polished shoes silent against the service floor. The kitchen stayed frozen for one breath. Then, Elena turned to the line, tables 20 through 25. Fire now. The room came alive. For the next hour, we moved as one system. Miles plated beef. Priya finished desserts. Elena cleared server questions before they became problems. I called the line until my voice went rough. At 10:15, The final dessert left the kitchen. At 10:20, the board chair signed completion. At 10:30, Audrey Foster placed a certified check into Elena's hands. "The best service this board has had in a decade," Audrey said, "and the most transparent crisis management I have seen from a caterer. I would like Morgan Café to bid on the winter gala." Elena held the check with both hands. "We would be honored." She did not look to me for permission or rescue. She owned the moment. Back at the cafe after midnight, the team unloaded crates, washed hotel pans, and scrubbed the upstairs kitchen until the air smelled of hot water, bleach, and lemon peel. Elena gathered everyone downstairs. The certified check cleared through the event account Mara had arranged. Staff received their balances before leaving. Miles signed the final supply reimbursement for my restaurant group. Every crate, every mile, and every borrowed cabinet was paid. Elena handed me the last receipt. "No $0 consulting fee," she said. "No hidden invoice." I answered, "No debt, no debt." She smiled then, tired and small, but real. The emergency was over. Daniel was not gone from the legal world. Arbitration would take weeks. The bank freeze would require documents, calls, and patience. But he no longer controlled the gala, the kitchen, or the staff payroll. Mara had enough evidence to keep him away from operations until the hearing. The cafe survived the night. 2 weeks passed. During that time, I came in twice as a consultant. Both visits were boring in the best possible way. Inventory controls, vendor permissions, dual signature rules, updated cooler alarms, and a written emergency plan. Mara attended by video. Elena's accountant reviewed every number. We closed each meeting with signatures, not glances. On the third Friday, I returned to the cafe as a customer. No chef coat. No binder. No emergency call. The espresso machine hummed behind the counter. Morning light struck the pastry case. The place smelled like butter, citrus, and coffee instead of fear. I took my usual corner booth and opened my laptop out of habit. A blue ceramic mug landed beside it. Water, full to the rim. Elena stood on the other side of the table in a dark cardigan and cafe apron. No contract, no folder, no menu draft. "Your hydration station," she said. "I am not on shift." I noticed. "Then why the mug? You looked wrong without it." I closed the laptop. The bell over the front door jingled, and Audrey came in with a portfolio. Elena greeted her, handed her a coffee, and pointed toward the office. "I will be there in 5 minutes," she said. Then she turned back to me. "Nathan, I am having dinner upstairs after service tonight. Not a business meeting, not a gala plan, not a thank you debt." Her fingers rested lightly on the back of the booth. "Just dinner, with me." The espresso machine hissed. For once, my mind did not reach for a schedule. "Yes," I said. Her smile reached her eyes. "Good." 7. That night, the cafe closed at 6. Elena locked the door the same way she had 3 weeks earlier. But the room felt different. No water dripped onto the floor. No legal notice waited on the counter. The walk-in hummed steadily overhead, its new alarm light glowing green. Upstairs, the prep table had been cleared and set for 2. There was soup, bread, roasted vegetables, and the small cake she claimed was structurally uneven but emotionally sound. Dinner was quiet at first. Then it became easy. We talked about kitchens that had burned us out, places that felt temporary, and the strange peace of doing work well enough that no one noticed the danger had passed. Afterward, we came downstairs to find Miles, Beatrice, and 2 servers waiting near the counter with coffee cups. Miles lifted his mug. "We are pretending we did not know this was a date." Beatrice shook her head. "I did not pretend. I told everyone." Elena did not step away from me. She reached for my hand in front of the staff who had watched her fight for the cafe, and her fingers closed around mine. "This is Nathan," she said. "Not my rescuer, not my lender, not my partner on paper." She looked up at me. "The man I am choosing to have dinner with again tomorrow." Miles pressed a hand to his chest. "Chef, I am emotional. Please do not ask me to plate anything. Your plating was never based on emotional stability, I said. The staff laughed, and the sound filled the room like heat. Elena squeezed my hand once. The blue mug sat on the counter. The espresso machine hummed. Above us, the prep kitchen was clean, cold, and safe. For months, I had come to this cafe looking for silence. That night, surrounded by clinking cups, soft laughter, and Elena's hand in mine, I realized I had been looking for something quieter than silence. I had been looking for a place where I could stay. The end.